Hello and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard Tactics video. So, imagine this scenario. You have a friend or an opponent, regular opponent, who plays Tau. And, you've been doing pretty well against them. And then, as they always do, inevitably your opponent discovers the awesomeness that is Riptides. Or maybe you're facing someone for the first time and they pull out a couple of Riptides and, you find that your regular heavy and special weapons like, autocannon grenade launch, the bread and butter for Tau for like 5 editions now, it just ain't cutting it. You could be slinging hundreds of autocannon shots at that monstrous creature and it is just not making a difference, And you play several games and your opponent, if you're playing with your buddy and he just starts getting more and more Riptides because he realizes how good they are, and then just get or maybe you play against this opponent on a regular basis and he's got his Riptides and you're going to be facing them and you want some way of being able to beat them. Now, unfortunately, we do not get the awesome gift that is Grav. We are not worthy of it, clearly, just being lowly Imperial Guardsmen. Not even the best of the best of the best, the Militarum Tempestus, get access to Grav. We are not Space Marines or mass-produced tin robots. We don't get access to Grav, unfortunately. So the next best thing we have is the much more traditional anti-monstrous creature weapon, which is the Plasma Gun. So the purpose of this video, after this long and lengthy introduction, is everything to do with Imperial Guard and Plasma. We're going to discuss all the different Plasma weapons we get access to, who can take them, and what platform they're best used on, if any at all. So the first thing that we're going to go through is just the classic plasma weapons that we get, because being Imperial Guard, we don't get access to any special things like plasma talons or plasma cavaliers, where we just get good old standard plasma. So the first one we get access to is the plasma pistol. Plasma pistol, all plasma guns have the following profile: strength 7, AP 2. They're all strength 7, they're all AP 2. What matters is whether they're in pistol or gun or cannon format, basically. So the plasma pistol is a pistol. It's one shot, strength 7, AP 2, 12-inch range, and that has the gets hot rule. There are very, 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 very few instances when you will ever want to take a plasma pistol, ever. You do not want to put them into your regular infantry squads, unless you are going for maximum plasma spamification, in which case you treat it as your special weapon. And if you're putting a plasma gun and a plasma pistol in an infantry squad, which could work, then you don't buy a heavy weapon. You just go plasma pistol, plasma gun, and that's your mobile. That makes your guys more mobile. That's potentially very viable. If you take, you could take 200 guardsmen in an 1850 point list and just give every single squad plasma gun and plasma pistol. That could work potentially, but it's very expensive. So normally you won't take them in your Reliant infantry squads, not plasma pistols anyway. The only times you would take a plasma pistol are in a suicide stormtrooper squad. Specifically a suicide melter or plasma stormtrooper command squad, because then you can take 4 plasma guns in there and also a plasma pistol, so you can at close range pump out 9 plasma shots, which is pretty good. It's expensive. I think it comes to about 160 points, I believe. It should come to about 160 points, but 9 plasma shots, 160 points plus skill 4, that can work. Also similar, and you take it in the melter squad as well, because sometimes you fire your 4 melters and you just need that extra hull point knocking off, and you wang out your plasma pistol and fire it. Not necessarily essential, because your commander could throw a crack grenade instead. But if you want to go max out plasma, that's how you'd use a plasma pistol. And again, the same applies for if you take a suicide company command squad. You can do the same again, or if you want a budget, the most budget option possible, you take a suicide platoon command squad, put 4 plasma guns and a plasma pistol in there. I mean, that comes to 105 points for 9 plasma shots. That's pretty good. And if it's suicide, it doesn't matter which... At the end of the day, if it's suicide, it doesn't really matter which platform it comes on, because you're going to be suiciding it. So potentially, so that's the only reason you use the plasma pistol. You don't want to put it on your mainline infantry squads unless you've got some kind of freaky plasma fetish. Plasma gun, same principle. You don't really want to put it on your main infantry squads because they'll only hit half the time. Save your plasma guns and your plasma pistols for your suicide squads. Now there's a couple of exceptions here which we'll cover later. Plasma cannons. Now, unfortunately, I mean, it'd be pretty cool, but we don't get it. We don't get access to plasma cannons on our heavy weapon teams. I mean, it would be... how cool would it be? Because Space Marines can do it. How cool would it be if you could just go ultra mega bunker busting plasma spam? Like, you have a plasma cannon in as your heavy weapons team, you have a plasma gun on as your special weapon, and you have a plasma pistol on your sergeant. Then... no matter, that would be really expensive though. I think you're going to start approaching 100 points for a 10-man infantry squad. I don't think it'd be worth it. But, potentially, you could have a special heavy weapons team and have 3 plasma cannons in them. That could work. That could work, potentially, if heavy weapon teams were cheaper. No, the first way you can get plasma cannons, and the cheapest way, I might add, is on Armoured Sentinels. Armoured Sentinels, and this is actually a competitive option, and I think I've spoken about it before. Armoured Sentinels are 40 points, and it's only 10 points, which is really cheap, to put a plasma cannon on them. So for 50 points, that's not bad. So if you want, as I was saying before, if you want plasma cannon heavy weapons teams, basically take 3 Armoured Sentinels. They're armor 12 on the front, so they're quite tough. They'll even scat bikes need 6s to glance up, which they'll get. But what I'm saying is they require scat bikes to be killed. Does that make sense? Scat bikes and above. So 3 plasma cannons is quite good, but no. So then the other way we can get them, the only other way that I know of, please forgive me if I've missed something out, although I am just quickly looking through my book to make sure I haven't. Plasma cannon. No, the only other way we can get them is on our tanks. So you can give any tank a set of plasma sponsons for 2 plasma cannons for 30 points, which is expensive. It makes even our cheapest tank 150 points, but maybe it's worth it. It makes it very expensive. You can give them to any tank, but the most popular choice if you're putting plasma cannons and leaving Russ is to put them on the Executioner, because then you have 3 plasma cannon shots, which leads on to my next special, next kind of plasma we get, which is you would be firing 5 plasma cannon shots from a single tank with Executioner plus 2 plasma sponsons, which leads me on to my final plasma weapon, which is sort of a cheat. It's the Executioner plasma cannon. I wonder if it does have an actual special name. I'm just having a look. No, it's just called the Executioner plasma cannon. It's exactly the same. Heavy 3 blast gets hot. Now there is also, and again it's the same principles. They're all the problem with plasma cannons is they're small blast, which means they tend to scatter a lot. If a small blast scatters at all, it basically misses. And the problem with the fact that you only get these things on vehicles is there's a good chance, as I've said in the past, if you take plasma cannons on vehicles, especially if you take 5 plasma cannon shots on an Executioner, it's a good chance you'll glance your own tank to death by about turn 4. I think is the math hammer on that. So there is also so just going through quickly, we have plasma pistol, plasma gun, plasma cannon, and Executioner plasma cannon. Now all of these have gets hot. So number one problem with plasma is it's strength 7 AP2 and gets hot, which means there's a good chance if you take a suicide plasma squad, you're going to fry one of your own guys, maybe 2, with all those shots getting pumped out. Gets hot, by the way, I'm sure everyone knows this, if you roll a 1 to hit, the weapon gets hot, and you have to pass an armor save or you die. So yeah, that's why plasma is very risky. That's why a lot of people prefer Melter, because Melter is only 10 points, so it's shorter range, but it's strength 8 AP 1, so it's tougher, and you don't die from it. So it's stronger, I should say, not tougher. It's stronger, but you get less shots. You just get the one shot. So Melter is one shot, close range, reliable. Plasma is 2 shots at close range, but you're probably going to die. So to mitigate gets hot, there's two ways. There's 2 ways you can do it. One is you get preferred enemy. One way or another, you get preferred enemy, either via Warlord trait or via a formation like the Steel Host, or via Relic. I think Kurov's Aquila gives you preferred enemy. There is a Relic in the Guard Codex that gives you preferred enemy. I don't actually know off the top of my head, to be honest, because I never use it. I'm sure it's Kurov's Aquila. Let's have a look. Yeah. Kurov's Aquila, the officer and all friendly units from Codex Extra Town with a 6 preferred enemy. So that's good. So that's one way of mitigating it, is get preferred enemy, and the other way on tanks. The other way, so that covers infantry and tanks, and the other way is to take a medic. If you're taking it in a platoon command squad, or a company command squad, or a Scion command squad, or Stormtrooper command squad, to say, you can take a medic, which costs the same amount as a plasma gun, 15 points for a plasma gun, 15 points for a medic, and then you get Feel No Pain, which can somewhat mitigate plasma. And obviously the third way, which I should have thought of, is you can use psychic powers to twin link, and therefore you've got a very good chance of not blowing yourself up. So there is one other sort of hidden plasma weapon that we get in the Guard Codex, which is Pask. So Pask, as I've covered in the videos, he's your tank commander, and depending on what tank he is in, he gets a special rule. So in some tanks, it allows him to reroll to hit. So when firing a battle cannon, infantry cannon, demolish siege cannon, or eradicate an over cannon, Pask can reroll to hit rolls. In an exterminator cannon or punisher cannon, he gets rending. And this is one that a lot of people don't actually realise. When firing an execution plasma cannon, Pask may choose to fire an incandescent plasma blast instead of using the weapon's normal profile. Again, it's range 36 inches like a plasma cannon, it's strength 7 to AP 2 like a plasma cannon, but it's only heavy 1, large blast, blind gets hot. So that's actually quite interesting, because the main problem with the executioner is it kills itself. But Pask gives you preferred enemy, which means you're less likely to fail your gets hot roll, and also he can choose to wang out a large blast instead, which also has blind. Now, if you're facing against a mob of deep striking Terminators, you probably want to go for that large blast anyway, because you'll just hit every Terminator and then kill them all. And you're less likely to blow yourself up. If you're facing off against Riptides, though, you'll want to go for 3 small blasts, because you want to try and, if you put twin linked on Pask when he's firing out 5 plasma cannon shots, he should hit with 4 or 5 of them. He should be able to get, sort of 3 or 4 wounds on the offending Riptide. If you take a squadron of these things, you should be able to. A squadron of executioners led by a Pask should be able to down a Riptide a turn. Should be able. They have to have twin linking. It's a long setup, but they should be able to do it at a comfortable range as well. So very quickly, we should go over. So just to sum up so far. So the plasma weapons we get are plasma pistol. So they're 12 inches. It's 1 shot. Strength 7 AP 2. Not, summary. Is it competitive or not? I would say no. You can leave it at home. Even on suicide squads, you can leave it at home. Plasma gun, is it good? Yes. Rapid fire, strength 7 AP 2. Again, its only real place is on suicide squads, but I can the caveat here, theory hammer. I can very much theory hammer see it being pretty cool, running, blobs of infantry running around with a plasma gun and a plasma pistol, 3 plasma shots at close range. I can with a Psyker in each, twin linking it, I can kind of potentially see that working, but you're paying 80 points a squad, so again, not sure. Plasma cannon, I think it's very good. Sentinels with plasma cannons are known in the Guard community for being quite good, and plasma cannons on tanks are known to be, you know, if you go full plasma, are known to being quite good. But both those cases are quite fragile, so make sure you bring along some way of getting preferred enemy, or maybe even having a tech priest hanging around to fix them. So that's how you want to run your plasma, basically. Or should I say, that's the summary of the plasma weapons. And we've sort of covered what units we should take them in as well. So yeah, I mean, plasma is pretty good, but it's very, very expensive. And this is something I want to cover. It's the main downside of running plasma in Guard. That's what I want to finish the video on very quickly. So what is the main downside of running plasma on Guard? Well, it's very simple, really. The issue is, when it comes to deciding where to put plasma, is that most of your guardsmen are only Blizzard skill 3. And that means you're only hitting half the time. So let's say you're taking plasma guns on your infantry squads. It's kind of, unless you mass it up, it's just very, very expensive. I mean, think of it this way. For the price of a single plasma gun or a single plasma pistol, you can get an autocannon and grenade launcher. So plasma is very expensive. One plasma gun will cost you the same as fully kitting out your squad with regular ordnance weapon or regular heavy weapons. So it's cost, and your low ballistic skill often means you won't take advantage of it. Another issue with it is like, how to put this? Another issue is, it's actually, in comparison to other weapons out there in the 40k universe, it's just not that good anymore. Plasma is massively, massively overshadowed by grav weapons. I know that seems a bit of a strange thing to bring up because we don't have access to grav weapons, but it's essentially the problem with trying to use plasma in a guard army is you're trying to rely on what is essentially a substandard counter to an issue that in 40k, which is monsters creatures being massively overpowered. So in order for you to get the most out of plasma, you really, really have to spam it as much as possible. But then that comes on and bites you in the ass, because that means you're spending loads and loads of points on it. So, I mean, think about it this way. For every 3 squads that you buy decked out in, you know, plasma, let's say regular infantry squads, you could get another squad for free. You get another squad, you can get another 10-man squad, basically. You know, I mean, it's crazy, and it's not that long range. So it's a short range weapon. If you're going to use plasma to its great, this is kind of where the issue rises. If you're going to use plasma to its greatest effect, you need to be in close range. But if you're going to be in close range, you might as well take a melter gun, because the melter gun won't kill your guy, and the melter guns are higher strength, so it will wound riptides on 2s. Plasma only wounds riptides on 3s. You know, imagine you've got, you know, if you need to get up close and personal to kill something, then you might as well go for the option that doesn't kill you and costs less. Plasma's just, the problem with it is it's so massively overshadowed by grav that it's really, really inefficient. But that's that's what I say is the main disadvantage of it. It's so expensive, and guardsmen really should not be paying the same points. Shouldn't be paying 15 points for plasma gun, or 10 points for plasma, or 15 points for plasma pistol. For guardsmen, it needs to be much cheaper. So, just to sum up, plasma is the only option we have for killing monsters creatures reliably, but unfortunately, it's not particularly points efficient. But it's all we've got, and if you're going to use it, I highly recommend you take it as a suicide squad format rather than decking everyone out with it, because it'll get really expensive points-wise. Thanks for listening.